as I've been yammering about for 5 or 6 years now, he's a deeply unwell man. He is a deeply psychologically disturbed individual. If he were a member of your family, you'd be staging an intervention and taking him in to a psychiatric hospital. And if Melania and Ivanka and Eric and Don Jr. care about their father, and I assume their father and husband, I assume they do, they would be doing that if they could. He is, as I've been saying, a narcissistic sociopath, a pathological narcissist, and a sociopath as defined by the American Psychiatric Association. And these are, historians will tell you, the traits of authoritarian dictators throughout history. And what we're seeing now is, as you put it, an implosion. And this, I believe, is what ultimately was always going to happen, the final implosion of Donald Trump. I mean, it's like Hitler, when Hitler was moving around divisions that didn't exist in the last 10 days of the war in the Führer bunker. I mean, he has completely lost it. This post is beyond question delusional. Anybody, I mean, but it was also inevitable, because what's happening here is he realizes he's gotten under more pressure than ever, because he's not just running for the presidency, he's running for his freedom. He's going to go to jail if he does not win the presidency, and he can see that now.
Donald Trump is psychopath, sociopath, narcissist.
He's a narcissistic sociopath. He's a malignant narcissist. He's a psychopath. He's just a general nut job. So I've been saying this for years, as you know.
Yeah.
And I finally got sick of the media basically ignoring it. I mean, that's how we ended up with weeks and weeks talking about Joe Biden and whether or not he's a little, he's slower than he was, and he slurs words, or he mistakes people for other people. Well, as we all do. I mean, obviously he's getting old, and Trump does it too, but somehow he skates, because we're used to that. We're used to him. And not only that, it's like, if you look at, there is some cognitive decline that occurs, obviously, after you reach age 10. And so we're all suffering from it. And of course, when you get to 80, 77, 80, 78, 79, 80, like these guys, it's obvious. And you can see it in Trump too, but we don't talk about Trump because we're used to Trump being just a complete lunatic and an idiot and a buffoon, talking about Revolutionary War airports 5 years ago and Clorox 3 years ago or 4 years ago. I mean, we're just used to that. And then all of a sudden, Joe Biden, people focus on Joe Biden. He has a bad night at the debate. I'm not saying that it wasn't correct for people to focus on his mental acuity and his ability to serve 4 more years. It's an absolutely legitimate concern for a president of the United States. The problem was it was only being applied to him.
Right.
And if you actually look at the two individuals and what they're starting with, not just base of knowledge, but just basically mental soundness, then there's no question that you'd vote. I'd vote for Joe Biden with his head in a formaldehyde jar before I'd vote before Donald Trump. And now it's a no-brainer now, because there's only one mentally incompetent person in the race now, and we know who that is, and he's all dressed in orange.
Right.
Anyway, that's the point to the pack that I put together, the Anti-Psychopath Political Action Committee, because he is a psychopath, and even at his mental best, at his most acute mental state, he's bad guy. He's basically represents all that is evil, as reflected in psychiatric definitions. He is the definition. If there is a diagnosis for evil, it is that of Donald Trump. He is a malignant narcissist. That is a phrase that was coined by a psychologist named Erich Fromm. I think it was in the 1950s. And what Erich Fromm was trying to do was he was trying to explain the psychological makeup of essentially the world's worst people, the Hitler, the Stalins. And he did. He basically just said the primary traits that these people have are extreme pathological narcissism. It's all about themselves. And sociopathy. They have no conscience. They lie all the time. They don't care whether they cause harm to others. And Trump is a narcissistic sociopath. And there are a couple of others things that Thom described, like paranoia. Well, Trump thinks everybody is out to get him, obviously, and Machiavellianism. They're always trying to work their way into power. Basically, it's narcissism and sociopathy. And even if you don't accept the psychological aspect of it, we are not psychologists or psychiatrists. We are not authorized to diagnose, but these are very, very simple definitions that anybody can understand. And if you don't want to get into, oh, I can't be a psychiatrist, I'm not an expert. All you need to do is look at the traits. I don't have my placards with me today that I had on Morning Joe last week.
Right.
But all you have to do is look at the characteristics of a sociopath, for example. And there are about 7 of them. And you only have to have 3 to be classified as sociopath by a mental health professional. Trump is all 7. There's no question that he is all 7. And, the question is, well, even if I don't accept a psychiatric diagnosis or I'm not making one, are these the characteristics that I want in anybody with any power or control over my life, let alone President of the United States?
Right.
No.
Right.
And that's the simple message that we're trying to get through. I mean, there really are 4 things that we're trying to get through. One is the nature of the problem. I mean, why, that he's a narcissistic sociopath, and why that's dangerous is the second thing. And the second thing about it is that explains every bad characteristic about him.
Yeah.
The misogyny, the authoritarianism, okay, the desire for revenge, all of the negative aspects of his personality are explained by his mental conditions. And those mental conditions are easy to spot, and you just don't want to have anything to do with anybody like that.
Right.
And then the third point is we're trying to get the press to finally write about it and to report about it, because one of the things that's happened is we treat him as normal. We have normalized Donald Trump's bizarreness, because not only because we're just so used to seeing it on the television and used to seeing it on social media, but nobody ever put the proper label on it, which is, this is pathological. This guy is not normal. He is out here. Okay. He should not be in charge of anything. And once you sort of try to normalize him and say, well, he's got a different approach, or he's kind of rough around the edges, or whatever it is they say about him in a given moment. And then they say, oh, it's the new Trump. And then it's the new Trump. Oh, he's got a new tone. He didn't scream at anybody today. It's like, no, he is what he is, and he always will be what he is. And you can't not take him seriously.
Well, election season is a sweet time of the year, right? As candidates coat their messages with lots of sugar to get your vote. Yeah, I said that. Now you can enjoy the sweetness of the election with authentic candidate cookies with the likeness of Kamala and Donald on your favorite butter cookie made by the famous deli in Chicago, Max and Benny's. You can purchase these once-in-a-lifetime cookies on the Stephanie Miller, Thom Hartmann, and John Fugelsang websites. To order, go to our websites, click on the banner for cookie candidates, or go directly to their website, cookiecandidates.com.